Yes, please.
Okay. All right. So let's begin our class. So before we begin, I want to ask this question to all of us before joining this class. Um, can we all list some of the products or services we've used before joining the class? It could be a tangible good or intangible good. What have we used this morning? All of us. Anything at all. What did we use this morning?
Yes. I brush my teeth with Pepsodent.
Okay, Pepsodent, right? Do you know who did the Pepsodent?
Unilever,
Okay,
please.
all right. Please, any other? Any other? Should I mention names? Hello? Hey, am I in class?
Madam, we are here.
Yes, we are here.
I asked the question, nobody is minding me. What have we used this morning?
Madam, I have used my mobile phone.
Exactly. What type of phone are you using? I mean, like the brand.
Uh, Techno.
Techno, yes. Do you know? Okay, so the company's name is Techno. Good. Any other? I need two more responses. I need two more responses.
Water.
Please, you said
Water.
water. Okay, from where? Ghana Water Company. Or you
Awake. Awake.
from
Awake.
Awake. Okay, so that's the name of the company. Yeah, Awake. Casaprecon. Not Awake is the name of the
Awake
product.
is the name of the water product. The
Yes,
company that produces it is Casapreco.
Casapreco. Good. And then last one. We don't have time. Oh. See, we've spent almost 30 minutes trying to log in. So let's respond quickly. Last one.
Madam, Milo. We used Milo this morning.
Milo. Good. Also
Yes.
from Unilever, right?
Yes.
Good. So what I'm trying to achieve with all of us is that almost all of us here are participating in international business. Almost everyone here, because you don't have to move to the company to be part of the business. Sometimes in your house, you are consuming products from businesses that are not even in your vicinity. Are we clear? We saw Techno, we heard of Techno, we've heard of Unilever. I think so far Unilever had two, Techno one, and what do you call it? Awake.
Casapreco. Wow.
Yeah, yes, Casapreco, good. So these are businesses that are always with us, and we as humans or consumers, we participate in the businesses. So international business is not something that happens only in the airport or maybe the port or some headquarters. Okay, it's already present on our phones, the clothes we wear. You will check made in China, made in India, made in UK, made in this, the food we eat, okay, transport, and even entertainment. They are all international business. So at the end of the day, we would have to understand or explain the meaning and major forms of international business transactions, also distinguish between domestic, foreign, and international businesses. The things we all mentioned, there were some that were domestic businesses. The Casapreco, it is Ghanaian owned. Okay, the headquarters or everything is from Ghana. They operate in Ghana. That is domestic. And then we also have what we call the Unilever and Techno. Okay, we also explain why firms internationalized and also compare their principal foreign markets entry mode, how they get into markets elsewhere in somebody's country or in a different continent. And also at the end of this course, we will discuss the main drivers and the main problems. We also look at the advantages and disadvantages of international business. We will analyze cultural, economic, political, legal, and competitive environment of foreign markets. And then lastly, apply environmental scanning, scenarios, forecasting, and benchmarking to an international business decisions. So this morning, we are looking at the nature of international business. And with this nature, we will look at overview of international business, the differences, okay, why operating across countries is more complex than operating within one country. We also look at foreign market entry. That is why firms go abroad and the method they use. We also look at the drivers of international business, the forces that encourage global business activities, the hurdles, and then the future of international business. Okay, so when we say international business, it refers to the commercial activities. Okay, it refers to the commercial. The key word here is what? Commercial. It refers to commercial activities that cross national borders. The activity may involve buying, it may involve selling, it may involve producing, it may involve financing, giving money, investing. It may involve licensing. It may also involve transport, employing, okay? And the defining feature is not the size of the firm. It is the cross-border dimensions of the transaction or operations that makes it international business. So we can have a Ghanaian enterprise that sells homemade products to customers abroad through an online platform, okay? And this one is engaged in international business, even if it has only 5 employees. So far as it is selling beyond borders, it is participating in international business. Okay. And likewise, a large company that operates solely within Ghana is primarily a domestic business. I can't tell whether Casapreco or Awake sells beyond Ghana. But so far as I can, like the little I know, they mostly sell in Ghana. So in that sense, we can assume the Awake production is a domestic production or is a domestic business. And then we have people that they are not big like Casapreco do, but they do exports. Okay. Like those doing neat fufu and things, we can find them almost everywhere in Europe or in America. You go to a supermarket or an African market, and then you see the neat products there. Okay, that is what we are talking about, international business. So to clarify, international trade, when someone is trading internationally, it is part of what? International business. But international business is broader here. Broader because trade will only focus on the export and imports. International business will include investments, services, technology transfer, licensing, and international human resource activities. So you see how international businesses, exporting and importing is part of international business, but that is international trade. But the whole international business concept goes beyond just sending goods out or importing goods in. It also includes investment. It includes exchange of human resources. It includes what do you call it? Knowledge or technology transfer, licensing, and all that. So we have licensed firms in Ghana. KFC is part, some even franchise and all that. The main headquarters of this company is not in Ghana, but we have them across the country. So that is what international business is. So let me ask this question to all of us. If a Ghanaian bank uses foreign owned software but serves only customers in Ghana, can we say this particular bank is an international business? Please, can you all hear me? Hello?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Yes, so I asked the question that if, let's say GCB, let's use GCB. Let's assume GCB uses foreign owned software for their operation. And GCB is, it used to be Ghana Commercial Bank. I don't know whether that GCB bank still has explanation. So Ghana Commercial Bank using a software that was designed by probably Apple or Google or something. Okay. And we know GCB is owned in Ghana, managed in Ghana. For the majority of its shares is owned by the people of Ghana. Can we say GCB is doing international business? Any answer? Hello?
Hello.
Please let me try this and see.
Yes, try.
Uh, GCB got the software internationally. That is, they transacted that particular business on international lines,
Good.
but their operations are within the country, which means they
Yes.
don't really serve people outside the
The
country, but
country.
they use knowledge from that particular place to do their operations within the country. And
Okay.
so I don't think we will consider them as an international business, depending on this one.
Okay. Any other? Any other? That's his
Hello,
opinion. Nobody is
Doc.
wrong in this class. Yes, please.
I will also say that the transaction on procuring the software between GCB and then Apple becomes an international business. Then emphasizing on the operations of GCB within Ghana becomes it is not an international business because their activities are within the premise of Ghana. Thank you.
Okay. So, madam, what are you saying? You first, you first said they procured, okay, they bought. International business refers to buying, selling, and trading of goods and services across national frontiers. So if they bought it, they've somehow done
So,
something international.
so what I'm saying is that the
Mhm.
procurement between GCB and Apple becomes an international
International trade.
business, yes, but it also emphasizing on their operation. You mentioned early
Mhm.
on that their shares are 70% of their shares are mainly owned by Ghanaians. So if you want to look at the operationalization of GCB, then we
GCB.
can say that they are not operating on international grounds because it's within the enclave of Ghana. That's what I'm trying to emphasize.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I think all of you must go and also think about this and come back. If a Ghanaian bank uses foreign owned software but serves only customers in Ghana, is it classified as an international business? You are all having a very fair point. So if anyone has any other counter, the person can bring it up. But me, I will not answer this question. I know where I will need the answers from. So we have some international business transactions to look at. First of all, for international business transactions, we can have primary products. Here we are looking at raw or minimal processed natural products cross borders. So, for example, Ghana, we export cocoa, gold, oil, timber, coffee, and others to other countries. Yes, we export them. Okay. So on the transactions, we have the primary product transactions, and then we have the manufactured or semi-processed transactions. That is garments, vehicles, chocolates, aluminium products, or pharmaceuticals. Okay. In Ghana, we have pharmaceutical companies that produces common medicines. We export them. Some we also export. We export. Some we also import. We also send kente cloth and all that. The processed one, that is the one already sold, or the raw kente with no beads and other stuff. But I think of late we've been doing that from China too. Or am I lying? We export kente from China. Is that the case? We import rather.
Yes, they do.
Why?
The low grade.
The low grade. Oh,
Yes.
okay. Okay. So does it mean we can't do low grade kente here too?
It's like when the women go there and they bring it, they get it cheaper than doing it around here. You see, those days, the pattern that Akosombo Textile used to print, that is what they have given to the Chinese to be doing. And so when they do that, they get cheaper prices than they get from Akosombo.
I see. Okay. And then we have the capital investment. Okay. The capital investment. So a firm commits money to productive assets in another country, such as a factory, a mine, a farm, a warehouse, telecommunication networks, or transport facilities. So the capital investment, most of the mining companies that we have in Ghana are not owned by Ghanaians. They are foreign businesses that have, brought in money to invest the companies we have here. So the whole company makeup, the machines, the buildings, the cars, the assets they use in mining, whatever, and even to some extent, the experts are not from Ghana. We are now trying to look at ways and means to have Ghanaians own all these mining companies. Aside that, we also have some with the agricultural parts. I don't know about whether we have companies that farm here on a large scale that are not from Ghana. I don't know. But if you know, you can give such example. We also have maybe road contractors and all that. Those who stone quarrying and all those ones are from China. These are big companies. Yeah, so they bring in more money to build these big companies. MTN Ghana is part of this capital investment. They've invested so much in the telecommunications network that we have in Ghana. Okay. We used to have one ourselves, the Ghana Telecom. And due to mismanagement, I don't know whether it is true or false, we sold it to Vodafone, and they've also sold it to Telecel. But now, I think the one that belongs to the Ghana government is Airtel Tigo. We have higher shares in that one. We hope that we take total control of that one. And then the next one is international service. Okay, international services. Services not only goods cross borders. So this includes banking, advertising, consulting, construction, tourism, insurance, education, logistics, and digital services. Okay, these ones are also part of international business transactions. And then we have intellectual property and technology. So a business allows another party to use a trademark, copyright, patent, formula, design or production processes, usually for a fee. Like the Coca-Cola company that we have here, the main company is I think in the US also, but we are producing Coke in Ghana using the formula and all that. It's not for free. It is for a fee. And then we have the human resource development. The human resource development, so people receive training, technical assistance, or professional development across countries. So firms may also deploy expatriates or develop local employees abroad, sometimes even in schools or at work, especially where you have international partners. You can do some exchanges. Some lecturers can go, though you'll be funded to go and learn how things are done in a different school, a different faculty for a semester or a year. And then you come back and it's expected of you to implement what you learned there. Okay. All this, the human resource development. We can bring in people to come and do workshops and things for us here also. Yes. And then we have the portfolio investments. That is, an investor buys foreign shares or bonds mainly for financial return without seeking direct managerial control of the company. So companies also raise bonds or they have shares that they sell, and people within or outside the country will buy them so they can also make money. This is also a form of investment into the company or even into the nation as well. Okay. So foreign direct investment normally involves a lasting interest and a meaningful influence of or control. But for portfolio investment mainly seeks financial return and normally does not give investor operational control. So that's the difference between FDI. FDI, the capital investment we have here, could also serve as an FDI. Foreigners bringing in money to be used. Sometimes when it comes with its own rules and regulations. They kind of control the investment. But for portfolio, if I should buy a bond from the government, or I buy a bond from Unilever, or I buy a stock from Unilever, all that I have to do is to be monitoring the performance of the stock or the bond, so that at the end of the day, I will just receive my, if it's a stock dividend, bonds, I receive my interest and all that. That ends it. Okay. So let's look at terminologies in international business. Terminologies in international business. So first of all, we have a global company. When we say a company is global, what do we mean? A firm that seeks significant worldwide coordination and standardization. Okay, it looks for similarities across markets and may use a common brand, technology, or operating system. So it refers to firms that attempt to standardize operations in all functional areas. And Samsung, Techno, Apple, we can see them as global companies. Sometimes when they launch their product, we have one that is suitable in the United States, one that is suitable in Europe, one that is suitable in Asia, and one that is even suitable in Africa. To some extent, they also launch one that are for people that can't afford extreme some of their brands. So it is assumed that their A series are cheaper ones for people to enjoy. I mean, When you compare the A series to the S and the Note and the Foldable and the Z, whatever, you will see the difference. At the end of the day, you will still enjoy something more like how those who are using the S and the things are using. And then when you pick a phone that is specifically made in Europe or in America, you will see some features that you will not see in the one that you are using in Africa. They've tried to standardize almost, I mean, the basic ones, you have it for almost all of their products. You only have the differentiations looking at your region or your income level. Okay, these are global firms. And then we have what we call a foreign business. When we say a business is foreign, we are trying to say that this business operates or is located outside the firm's home country. So in case Casapreco is having some sort of either a warehouse, a branch or something in Togo, we can say it's a foreign business because the main production or the headquarters of Casapreco is from Ghana. So if you go to Nigeria and you see Casapreco there, Casapreco becomes a foreign business in Nigeria or a foreign business in Togo. Please, I hope you understand what I mean.
Yes, please.
Yes, okay. So that is what a foreign business is. A business operation located outside the firm's home country. So from the parent firm's perspective, its operation is, or its operation in another country is a foreign operation. Okay, and then we have what we call international business. An international business, a business activity that crosses national borders, including trade, services, investment, and technology transfer. So we have international airlines, MTN, Uber, and I think Zenith, Societe Generale, and all that. They're all international businesses. They're almost everywhere. Yes. A global company still makes selected local adaptation. That is the difference here. When we say a company is global, it still makes selected local adaptations. So standardization does not mean ignoring every culture, legal, or market differences. If we say this company is global, I'm trying to stress on the global company. There is standardization though, but to some level, when you get to a region or a country or a specific income level, you will see the small differentiation between its products. Okay, sorry. And then another one or two or more I want to add to the terms. We have the what do you call it? Multi-domestic company. Multi-domestic company. I don't think it's in your slides. Multi-domestic company. So when we say a company is multi-domestic, here the company gives its country subsidiaries substantial freedom to tailor products and strategies to local markets in different ways. So Casapreco can have a branch in Accra, Kumasi, Takoradi, and all that. They are domestic company, but they are, how do I call it? They are almost everywhere within their locality. Okay. So they have local responsiveness. That's what I mean. And then we have international company. International company. So this is an umbrella term covering firms with meaningful operations in more than one country, including a global and a multi-domestic firm. So they have cross-border operations. And then we have multinational enterprise. Multinational enterprise. So they are commonly used, or is a commonly used modern term for a firm that owns or controls value-adding activities in more than one country. One part of the country could be the supply of raw materials, and it is only in probably Togo. So let's say Casapreco uses a lot of alcohol. So it could be that its alcohol is being sourced from Togo. So there is a plant of Casapreco in Togo that solely produces what alcohol for the use of Casapreco products. And then we also have a plant in Nigeria that is solely for packaging or solely for advertising or probably warehousing or distribution. So it has a multinational enterprises for different purposes. Looking at its supply chain, one looks at raw material sourcing. Another company in a different country looks at the production, the whole of the production itself. Another one looks at the distribution and marketing and all that. And then you see it's multi-what enterprise, multinational enterprise. So there's a question I have here on my slides. We have the globalization debate. So, is globalization evil or a good thing for a business? When we say globalization, okay, we are looking at increasing interconnectedness of countries through trade, investment, finance, people, technology, information, and culture. And it creates benefits, but the benefits and costs are not automatically or equally distributed. So if a company wants to go global, in your own idea or in your own perspective, is it good or is it bad? Can we discuss that in the next 5 minutes? Who can start for us?
Okay, let me try.
Yes, please, try.
Um, Looking at the definition itself, it says a lot. And so I would think that it is good for a country, a business to go that tangent in the sense that it opens and sells out the country the more, and it builds international relations between that particular country and the others that it is linked to, and not just for the business. Even apart from the business introducing that line, politically, it can also open a kind of channel for the country to do other businesses apart from that particular business that entered that particular country. And even its citizenry also, depending on how that particular business operates in that country. If the people get to know that this is a Ghanaian business and how they have been treated, citizens also earn some kind of respect based on that particular one. And so I think that if the businesses go global, it's good for the country.
Good. I like your analysis. Please, any other contribution, whether you are for or against globalization? Any other? Please, for my class, it is more of engagement too. It's not about lecturing. I'm not the type that will talk throughout. We have to talk. All of us must talk. So please bear with me and contribute. I'm begging you. Any other? I want a woman to talk.
I
Yes.
am a woman,
Oh,
though. I'm not a man.
Hey,
what you
who? Please, wait, I'm sorry. Please, who
yes.
just spoke?
My name is Samilia. I've got
Samilia.
But
cold. Yes, I've got cold. Maybe that's why you hear my voice like that. I've got cold. I'm a woman.
Oh, Auntie Samilia, please, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Forgive me.
Oh, not at all.
Okay, but still, another woman should talk. Then we take one man. We will not do gender balance here. Okay, please, someone wanted to talk. Hello? Hello? Someone else wanted to talk. Hello. Okay, let me do small roll call. Akwete Frida, please, are you here?
Doc, I'm here.
Okay. Asante Kofi Joseph. Asante Kofi Joseph. Asante Kofi Joseph. So Joseph is not in class. Beta. Continua. Beta. Beta.
Yeah, hello.
Okay, yes. So Auntie Beta is in class. Mercy Plotchy. Please forgive me if I'm not able to mention your name well.
Doc Calaro.
Okay. Kobnentry Boesiakun.
Dog, I'm here.
Okay. Mami Kwabiajan.
Please, I'm here.
Mark Ofosu. Mark Ofosu. Mark Ofosu. Okay, and then Auntie Samilia
Dog,
just spoke.
please, Joseph is in class.
No, as Auntie Joseph, you just came. You are not in class. So Mark Ofosu and Asante Joseph, you've muted yourself and you've absented yourself. So we have only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Only 6 people out of the 13 are in class. I've taken note of them. All right, please. The last, someone wanted to talk, yes, on the evil and bad of globalization.
Yeah, hello. I
Yes.
think my network, what I was trying to talk is better.
Okay. Yes, it's better. We can hear you.
I would say that it is globalization is good in the sense that it will even help you expand your business to other countries and then make much profit. Apart from that, going locally, you also help to create more jobs, job opportunities for others to benefit.
Okay. That's wonderful.
Going that way to also tend to learn other countries, their culture, and other stuff. I think the last time we had one discussion, we were like, yeah, in other countries, what they do there, you get to learn a whole lot of things and then help
That's
improve
wonderful. That's
also
wonderful.
their culture and whatnot. And then you are also sending goods and services across other countries like that. They will get to know of it and you'll make more profits.
More customers, more profits. Yes. 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 That's wonderful. Any other Auntie Mercy? I think your microphone is on. Do you want to say something?
Doc, I just want to add to this Better's point that it has increases the consumer's choice because international products and services are going across the country, so the choice of the consumers are also increases.
That's good. That's good. You've all done well. You've all done well. Okay, so let's continue. So we have the difference between, so let me just say a few things on the argument for and the argument against. So most of you have said almost everything. Large markets can increase skills and then scale and productivity. Okay. You may also gain consumers, and then consumers may gain more choice, better quality, and low prices. Globalization also help with foreign investment. Okay, you can bring in capital, jobs, technology, and managerial knowledge, just as you said. We also have the cross-border flows that can spread ideas and innovation. All of you have said all that. And then we have the concern about the globalization. So domestic firms and workers may lose when they cannot compete with imports or relocated production. So globalization sometimes or somehow also encourages imports of goods and services, and then they come and then compete with the local businesses. It becomes a problem. And then there is a race to lower costs, which may encourage poor labor conditions or environmental damages. We also have profits. Profits may be repatriated because they are not from here. They send their profits and things back to their country. Okay, becomes a problem. And then the cultural expressions and policy autonomy may be weakened by dominant global institutions or corporations. We all have our own culture. We all have. So let's pick Saudi Arabia. They don't eat pork. They don't take alcohol and all those things. And if they allow, because of globalization, they allow these firms to enter into their, you see, during the World Cup 2022, they were not giving in with publicly drinking alcohol or eating things that are not part of their culture. And they were very firm on that. Imagine they had allowed it to continue, to consistently happen for the whole of the 1 month. It will get to a point after the World Cup, it could have continued, and that could have changed certain things about their culture. So sometimes these are some of the things that globalization brings. But in conclusion, globalization is neither automatically good nor automatically bad. Okay. Outcomes depends on the institutions, the capabilities, and the bargaining power, as well as the regulations as well. So inclusion and how governments and firms manage whatever that happens brings in gains or risk. Okay. The Saudi Arabia people, what do you call it? The Qatar people and all those people, they were so firm with their so they give some allowance. You can drink alcohol and things, but not in public. You can drink it in your rooms. You are not supposed to be seen drunk on the roadside, holding alcohol, shouting, and all those things. And we had one of the best World Cups in the world. Okay, so globalization is good. It's also bad, or it's not good. It's also not bad. It's just as it is. You just need to regulate your things well. Okay, and that will be it. So we have differences between international and domestic businesses. Differences between international and domestic business. First of all, one difference is the market scope. Okay, so for domestic business, one national market, though it may contain several regions. So that is the scope for domestic. It is within the country. It may have different branches and all, but it's still in the country, doesn't go beyond the borders of the country. And for international business, you can have two or more national markets with different demand conditions. So the scope is not confined in just one country. You have it beyond borders, and it could serve different purposes. Okay, so the scope for international business is big. The scope could be different nations, and it could also mean different nations serving different products or serving the needs of different customers with different demand conditions and all that. So you see it is broad. And then we have the regulation or regulatory environment. Primarily, one legal and regulatory system is for domestic business. If you are in Ghana, you are operating in Ghana, so you are under the laws of the Ghana government. You have your tax laws, you have the ESG laws to obey, the environmental issues and all that. Okay. And then the labor union, labor market, the minimum wage and other things. And few things the constitution provides for a business and all that. But the moment you go international, you have more regulatory environments. The home country, the host country, and international rules may all apply. Okay, if you are moving to Nigeria, you have to obey the rules of the Nigerian government. You may also have to consider ECOWAS, what do you call it, regulatories and all that. So the the regulatory environment for international business is broader as compared to the domestic one. And then we have the culture. Okay, for domestic businesses, managers are usually more familiar with customer and workplace norms. If you are in Ghana, you know the culture of Ghana, very simple to work with. We are very open. Do your adverts very well. Get GTV, UTV, one or two influencers to make the campaign for you. You are in the market. When children are doing their fanfare and all that, you can just pass by, share. I mean, you know the culture of Ghanaians and all that. We are very liberal. We are not so strict and all that. Just serve us. When you move to other culture, values, sometimes language, okay, religion, negotiations and consumption patterns may differ. You are in Ghana, you want to move your firm to an Arab or an Islamic state. Ghana is not an Islamic state. Ghana is also not a Christian state, though majority of us are Christians. Ghana is open to everybody, okay? So we are not so strict on what to sell. But you move to a state that is fully Christian or a fully Islamic state or full Buddhist and all that, it becomes a problem. Also, you move to a state that don't speak English, they speak a different language, or the official language of the state is not English. You may have to print your product, brand your product, everything in the language. Okay, it calls for more people to do that. It comes with its own cost. Okay, and the consumption pattern. We don't care here in Ghana whether it is rainy season or whatever season. We buy what we buy, we wear what we wear at any point in time. Sometimes because we have a very good weather, because though we have rainy season and whatever season, it can decide to rain any day in Ghana. Sometimes even during the raining season that you expect to rain, you can have a very hot sunny day. So you just have to get an umbrella in your bag. And then you move to certain nations where their weather is strictly, you remove here, remove here, remove here. So there are things that you need to sell at each point in time, especially with fashion, clothes, bags, shoes, and all that. There are specific times that you sell all these things. These are the cultural differences that happens in international businesses as compared to domestic businesses. And then we have the currency and exchange rates. So for domestic businesses, you mostly transact in your home currency, okay? But when it comes to the international business, you will have to be using the international, what do you call it, currency, mostly in dollar, euros, or pounds. I think probably Chinese, because they are fighting with the Americans now, they don't use dollar. It's by their strictly using their currency. And you'll be looking for exchange rates, conversion cost, and currency risk and all that. That is why the dollar is up there, because most of our aunties, our uncles, our sisters, our children, they do international trade or international businesses. They import, they export a lot of things. So the currency becomes a problem, especially when our currency is devaluing. But if we are here just doing commerce amongst ourselves, if Casapreco is not importing its products, but rather having them locally, everything locally, I don't think they'll have issues with dollars. Okay. And then we have the political risk. Okay, for domestic businesses, you are affected mainly by the domestic policy and stability. So you are only fighting against NPP, NDC, their policies. So if NDC is saying this, you know that when NPP come, NPP will also say that. So you are used to them, okay? But when it goes beyond domestic and we move to international, You are exposed to political conditions and diplomatic relations in several countries. So you will be in Lebanon, and then all you could hear is that there's a nationwide shutdown because Israel has sent a bomb somewhere, or Palestine or whatever, they've also sent a bomb somewhere. So it will just affect you. Or US has decided to block here and block here, it is going to affect you. But if you are in Ghana, just in Ghana, if you can throw the bomb where Katapreko will still sell that week. They will produce the same number. Please, I hope you get me. Hello. Are we all here? Hello.
Hi, Doc.
Okay.
Hi.
All right. Thank you. And then we have the supply chain. So the domestic one, you have a shorter and simpler supply chain. Not always though, but so far as your source of raw materials or whatever you use for your production and at the selling point, almost everything is in Ghana. It's somehow quite shorter. Okay. But when it becomes international, you will be dealing with customs, ports, long lead times, multiple transport modes, border disruptions, and a lot of complex stuff. Okay, you need to clear it here, you need to clear it here. It's a whole lot. Okay, and these are some of the differences between international and domestic businesses. And then the communication and language, I spoke about it under the cultural differences. Often you have one main language and familiar communication conventions in a domestic business. But for international business, translation, time zones, non-verbal misunderstandings become important. Let's look at this example. We all watch the men here. Only one man responded. If you watch the game between Argentina and Egypt, we all saw certain things. The Egyptian coach was doing some signs, and internationally, we thought he was racially abused. He was interviewed and he was saying something else different from racial abuse or racism. The language he used in his country is different from the language on the international stage. So in his domestic league, he can do that and they'll probably understand him. But when he did that on the international level, we all looked at it from what we think that sign should be. That is communication and language issue. You can have your business in someone's country with your staff and all that, and you may be doing your adverts, you may be doing your trade or things in a way you might think it is normal in Ghana, so it should be normal at the international stage. You realize that the skill you used in your communication, some signs you used, some branding, some colors you used signifies something, and it may harm or give you a good image. So communication and language for international business is something very serious that you need to consider. In most firm or international firms, they pick the locals as their PR or as their marketing people so that they can communicate so well to the people that or the citizens of that particular country. And then we have the cost and resource allocation. So for domestic, resources are largely sourced and allocated within one country. But for international, you are looking at labor, skills, raw materials, taxes, finance, and logistics across multiple nations. So these are some of the differences between domestic business and international business. And then we have what we call domestic and foreign environments of a business. Domestic and foreign environment of a business. So for the differences that I spoke about, what you need to understand is that international business is not simply domestic because on a larger scale, It involves greater diversity, distance, uncertainty, and what? Coordination. That is for the differences between international and the domestic business. And these businesses, they have environment they operate in. So for a domestic environment for a business, there are conditions originating in a firm's home country. Casapreco is exposed to domestic environment. They include home country laws, interest rates, labor relations. They include infrastructure, consumer demand, and government policy. Okay. Domestic forces can still affect foreign operations. But for example, a home country foreign exchange controls or financing conditions can limit a firm's ability to invest abroad. But at the end of the day, they are domestic environments. And then we have foreign environment. Foreign environment. These are conditions in a host country where the firm sells, sources, produces, or invests. So the same categories of forces exist: the economic, the political, the legal, the cultural, and those technological, but their values affect, their values may affect very different, or they are not like the same from the home country. They are uncontrollable forces originating from outside the home of the country where the firm is located. Okay. So, as I said, they are the same as the forces in the domestic environment, except that they occur outside the borders of the domestic country. That is a foreign environment and the domestic environment. Domestic one is within the country you live in. The foreign environment outside the country you live in. So they are practically the same, but one is within, the other one is outside the home country where you live. So for example, Casapreco will enter Cote d'Ivoire. Okay. If you are entering Cote d'Ivoire, you must understand that not only Ghanaian exports procedures, but also the host maker's language, taxes, distribution systems, customer preferences, and product requirements. When you're going to Cote d'Ivoire becomes a foreign nation and it has its own environment. So you are going to deal with the environment in Cote d'Ivoire. If you are exporting your product from Ghana to Cote d'Ivoire, your product is going to face some environment there in Cote d'Ivoire, and that becomes a foreign environment to you as a business. And then we have the international environment. So for the international environment, it's created by interactions across countries. A decision in one country may affect a business relationship in another country. Okay. So exchange rates, regional trade arrangements, diplomatic relations, cross-border standards. We have the global commodity prices and transport routes. They all connect the domestic and foreign environment. So, as I said, this environment is the interaction between the domestic force and the foreign force. Okay. So you can have 3, 4, 5 countries together, or 5 or 6 with different regions. It could be West Africa, it could be Asia, it could be Europe, it could be America, okay, or the other Oceania, anywhere. So far as you have businesses running through these regions, you are bound to face international environments. Okay. So let's say a cocoa processing firm in Ghana may source locally, borrow in one currency, buy machines from another country, and sell the finished product to a third country. Its performance is shaped by interaction of all these environments. First of all, you are here in Ghana sourcing cocoa. Okay, that is the domestic one. You are faced with what? Domestic environment. And then you buy machines and things from Ghana. from China, your import and your export here is affected by foreign environments. When China decides to increase their prices or whatever, it will affect you. And then when you are done with your production, you sell your chocolate or whatever to Americans or to people in Europe. Okay. So now you are dealing with 3 countries at different spots. That becomes the environment you operate in. You are dealing with an international environment. So this is what I'm talking about. Now for an environment of a business, okay, we have the internal forces and the external forces. If a business is facing an environmental issues, it could be internal or external. Now, where the forces are internal, we are looking at the ones that you can control. Okay, the ones that you can control. So here it could be resources and activities over which management has meaningful influence. Okay, it could be the people involved, as your employees, the finances, the raw materials, the structure of the business, the culture, technology choices, and business functioning. So as a manager, what you need to do is that you need to plan, organize, allocate the resources. You need to train your people. You need to control quality and redesign your product so that you can overcome these internal forces. And then we have the external, the one that you cannot control. Okay. So the ones that you cannot control, we are looking at conditions that cannot directly, you cannot directly command it to stop, or just as I said, control. Your laws governing the country, okay, inflation rates, politics, social values, we have natural conditions, competitions, broader technology trends, and all that. These are beyond management control. So what you need to do as a manager is that you monitor. When you know there's going to be raining season, you are located at a flood-prone area. As a manager, you must quickly act towards that, because you cannot tell the flood that you should flood somewhere and leave your area. You need to forecast. Are we going to face inflation in the next 2-3 years or in the next 4 months? Okay. Is the dollar coming down? Are prices going to be down or up? What's the fiscal policy of this particular party? When this party comes, do we have higher interest rates or lower interest rates? You should be able to forecast some of these things. You need to also adapt, okay? And then influence lawfully through associations. You can find yourself. So if you see these businessmen or gurus aligning with some political parties, you should bear with them, because when you align with them and you help them when they come, sometimes the business policies they bring becomes favorable to you and your business, and you enjoy from it. That's the only way you can manage external forces, okay? And then you cooperate with partners or leave the market. If you think you cannot hold, or the external force is too much for you, just leave the environment. You close down your business. That's the easiest way people do. Or you see, when the financial landscape, the marketing and other stuff was not good for Vodafone, they sold their assets and they left. Exactly. So external does not mean irrelevant or completely impossible to influence. Okay. A single firm may have limited control, but firms can lobby lawfully from coalitions, negotiation, and other stuff with stakeholders. So if we have all Ghana telecos forming alliance, and then they tell the government that you tax us too much and it affects our customers. So imagine MTN, Telecel, Airtel, Tigo. Yes, the three of them come together and they tell the government that you tax us too much and it affects our customers. So if you don't reduce it, we are all leaving. You think the government who is using MTN or Vodafone will allow you to leave? Now they will sit down and listen to you and try to negotiate. That is how some of them solve external forces. Okay, that's how some of them solve external forces. So we will look at uncontrollable forces. So according to Ball and McCullough, 1999, the uncontrollable forces consist of the following. The ones that you can actually not control. One, we have competition. So the number, the strength, location, and actions of your rivals. Okay. A foreign entrant may trigger price cuts, new products, or heavier advertising services. If we are getting a new network that is going to compete with MTN, they can enter the Ghanaian market to the very, 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 very low. That's what MTN did to Ghana Telecom. Ghana Telecom used to be the network for the airlines. And then MTN entered as, I don't know, space. I think it started as space also. Then Space Phone Ariba to MTN. They used to stand, they were in the market, they will see you, they will sell the chip to you very cheap. They can register it for you very, very, very cheap. And then you have it. You don't need a lot of things or we don't have to go to any office. Just do it for you. By the time they realize they have taken or they have number of customers and they entered with a very cheap format. So at the end of the day, they competed highly with Ghana Telecom. And then we have the distribution. Okay, the availability and quality of agents, wholesalers, retailers, online channels, ports, and logistics providers. Okay, this connects the firm to customers. And if you lose this, you can't control it. You can't control. Casapreco has a lot of warehouses and distribution channels in Ghana. If you want to compete with them, you must have something more than what they have. These are also part of even the competition. And then we have economic output, growth, income, consumption, productivity, and labor cost. This influence demand and operating viability. If the economy is not good, they will not buy your product. It's not their fault. They don't have money. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't force goods on people's neck. And then we have the social economic, population size, age, location, income distribution, education, and household structure, market segments, and labor supply. All these things, as a company, you cannot control. You can't control population size. Okay, you can't control population size. And you can't also control the preferences of people, what they want. If almost everyone wants to use Samsung, if you are using Apple, you can't control the tastes of the people. Okay, that's what they want to use. There's nothing you can do about it. When we pick our education like this, most people want to attend a secondary school that is from the government. Only few go to the private. And if you want to open a private secondary school, you cannot compete or you cannot force parents to bring their children to your school. Imagine a child is supposed to choose between Archbishop, Wesley Girls, Holy Child, Infantimine Girls, and then you open your new private school, Hope Senior High School. And the child has the opportunity to choose between these two. Even between the list of government schools I have listed, the child will still have a preference. So you, the the private one, you'll be the last option. They will not even look at you in the first place. So these are socioeconomic issues that a business cannot control. And then we have the financial, interest rates, inflation, taxation, access to credit, and exchange rates. They all affect cost of capital and the value of receipt and payment for a business. These are something you cannot control. You can't control. And then the legal aspect, domestic and foreign laws governing contracts, employment, competition, consumer protection, tax, data, product and intellectual properties. All these things are laws that you need to abide. You need to make sure your company lawyer is abreast with all these things, helping you to shape your contract and all these things. You cannot do without these laws. And these are something you cannot in any way control. We have the physical, that is the climate, geography, natural resources, and exposure to hazards that affect product design, transport, insurance, and facility location. Okay, you will be there, you think your place is not flood prone. You may not know what will happen. Your whole place will be flooded. It is not your fault as at that point. You didn't plan. Sometimes you can be at a place that is not a waterway or whatever, but things can happen. It could rain beyond what the vicinity can contain, and this could lead to flooding and all that. Okay. We have the political, that is government stability, ideology, policy, public policy, nationalism. All these things affect the business, and you cannot control. You are not the party manager, or you are not the speaker of parliament or the chief justice to come and tell us what can help your business. They do that to benefit the whole of Ghana. So if the policies are to even take you out so that the people of Ghana would benefit, the government will not hesitate to do that. And there's nothing you can do about it. And then we have the social culture, values, beliefs, attitude, religion, language, and customs shape communication, consumption, management, and negotiation. So it is not because of your business that a traditional area will, will, will ditch their principles and embrace you. You have to adapt. There's nothing you can do about it as a firm. You have to adapt. That is how it is. And then we have the labor, that is the size, the skills, productivity, cost, attitude, and organizations of workforce determine what the firm can produce and how. So what you can do is to make sure your HR employs people that can work in the same interests of your company, because you can't force people to do what you want them to do if you don't apply them, if you don't employ them in that line. And then lastly, we have the technological. So infrastructure, technological skills, innovation, and equipment determine production methods. People are moving from hard infrastructure to soft infrastructure. Okay, I had the opportunity to enter a Japanese restaurant. They don't have waiters carrying your food to bring to you. Where you sit, there is a tablet. You select the food you want to order. After selection, you just click order. Within some few minutes, a machine will serve your food in front of you. It will just move. So there are some more like you see a railway, you have the rails where the train will be moving on the rail. This one, there's also a rail that the food will be moving on it to your table. So ping, then when it gets to where you sit, it stops and you pick your food. No, no waiter will bring your food, or you will not see them and ask them, when is my food coming? They'll tell you, give me some few minutes. It's still on fire. You will not ask anybody that question. And it will not delay too. So imagine such restaurants are in Ghana and yours is the archaic one. You can't control the number of people that should go to that particular restaurant and leave yours. That is how it is. Okay, so technological advancements, technical skills, you can't control them. The world is advancing. We are doing things in a soft way. Someone will say soft life. This is not a time for me to go and find people to come and pound fufu for me when there are different forms of fufu machine that are doing things even far better. You can't control how technology is changing. Okay. Then we move to the reason why firms go international. The reason why firms go international. First of all, they go international to obtain greater profit. So when you have foreign sales, you can increase revenue, while international sourcing or scale can lower unit cost. Okay, so profit is not necessarily guaranteed, but you are expected to have weighted average risk. Okay, you move to a different country, you meet different customers. Obviously, they will buy. And you have some form of revenue outside and also some form of revenue in your local business. And then people also move international to gain access to more reliable or cheaper resources. So firms may seek raw materials, skills, technology, finance, energy, or labor that are unavailable, more reliable, or less costly at home. And then we also have responding to foreign competition. Okay, a firm may enter a competitor's market, match its international presence, or source more efficiently to protect its home position. And then the large market share. When the home market is small or saturated, foreign markets may provide additional customers and room for growth. People also go international so they can satisfy management desire for expansion. It's the aim or vision of some businesses to be an international business. So managers and investors may seek growth, prestige, learn they will learn more of diversification. Okay, and then at the end of the day, they expand their business to other countries. So these are some of the reasons why a firm may decide to go international. Now, if they go, the question is, how do businesses enter into this foreign market? If I want to be a foreign business, how do I enter these markets? First of all, they could enter through exporting. So for exporting, we say products are produced in a home country and they are sold to customers abroad. You benefit from relatively low commitments, useful for testing demand. So someone can be doing shuttle. Oh, my friend lives in, let's say, Netherlands. Okay, anytime he comes or she comes around, I try and give him or her 3 or 4 bottles of shito, and the person go and do adverts. The moment they get market from there, they try to negotiate with some supermarket there that can have the businesses or the shito there. And then maybe you go and see the laws and things, how we can make it a large scale. You apply, blah, 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 and then you start shipping. If it meets their food and drugs board standard, you are good to go. And then you've announced your presence and people will start buying. At the end of the day, it looks quite cheaper. You are there, your business is not there, like as in you don't have the plant there, but you have your products in their shelves. That's how it works. Some look at it that way. It's quite cheaper. So the main limitation here is that transport, customs, tariffs, and then limited local control. You can't control the local market. They can decide not to buy it, and the expiry date will be up. You throw it away. Okay. And then we also have the licensing. Sorry, the licensing. So a licensor permits a foreign licensee, okay, to use technology, patents, trademarks, or processes for fees or royalties. So with this one, there is fast expansion with limited capital. I have the license from Public Casapelco to open a Casapelco business here. Okay, very simple, very cheap. Casapelco do not need to come and set up. I just need their license, and then I start operating using their business lines. Okay, so the main limitation here is that there's risk of weak quality control or creating a future competitor. Mhm. Because they are not here, they give me their license. Casapreco, the way they monitor their staff in Ghana will probably be different from how the things will be monitored here. It may not really meet the standard. It will be very standardized though. But if you want the quality, probably because it's not coming from Casapreco, you might not see the actual standard that Casapreco really wants. Okay. And then we have the franchising. The franchisee uses the brand and complete business formats under agreed standards. Okay, so here there will be rapid service sector expansion using local investments. And some of the limitations here is that it is difficult to maintain consistent service and brand reputation. It's really very, very difficult with a franchise business. And then some also decide to create foreign subsidiary. They create foreign subsidiary. So the firm owns an operating company in a host country through a new investment or acquisition. So there are a lot of beverages and water production businesses here, and Casapreco can buy one as a subsidiary and rebrand it to produce things in the name of Casapreco. Or Casapreco can come here and come and create its own business here and be producing the things it produces in Ghana. Okay, so here there is high control and closer market presence. The firm itself is here, so they control it the way they want. Okay, the limitation is that it is very expensive. Coming here to buy a whole space to build a whole new company, get your whole or your new marketing channels and all that, it's not easy. And the commitment and exposure to host country risk is also there. Okay. Especially if the country you want to have your subsidiary in are very, very hostile to foreign businesses, you really suffer. And then we also have the contract manufacturing. Okay, a foreign producer manufactures to a local firm's specifications and brand. Most of the businesses in Ghana do that a lot. They go to China, give them specifications, and the Chinese company will produce the product for them. So there is access to capacity or lower cost without owning the plant. I think delay does that a lot. With all her products, it is produced in China. You just give them the specification, the standards, the quality assurance, the things you need to do. Specify it for the Chinese people. They'll produce the things and bring it. You don't really have to get a plant here. The disadvantage is that supplier dependence. If they don't bring the product, you are dead. Quality and intellectual property risk. The same The same company that is producing for you could be producing for someone, and they may use the same thing. So the taste and things will not change. You will have your competitors also producing or getting their products from the same place. So you will not really have a unique product. That's one disadvantage. Then we have the joint venture. So the joint venture here, two or more firms create or share an enterprise for a defined purpose. Okay. So they combine capital, knowledge, network, and risk sharing. The difference is that, or the disadvantage is that conflict may arise over control, over profits, over goals, or even the knowledge sharing. They can end up fighting. So this is how businesses enter into foreign markets. So as commitment and ownership increases, control and potential learning often also increases. So do capital requirements and exposure to political, economic, and operation risk. If you want to enter into a foreign market, you should be looking at it in this way: the capital requirement, exposure to political, economic, and operational risk. Okay. Now, let's go to what you call drivers of international business. What drives international business, or what make people go into international business? You have the political. So trade agreements, regional integration, investment incentives, and reduced border barriers make cross-border activities easier or more attractive. If all these things are in the positive side, it's very attractive for you to have an international business. If they look ugly, it becomes difficult for you to enter into international business. And then we have technological reasons. Okay, digital communication, e-commerce, data systems, um, containerization, and improved transport reduces the cost of coordinating over distance. And so people will enter into international business. Then we have the market, the home market saturation, customer internationalization, and convergent preferences encourage firms to seek demand abroad. Almost everyone here is selling kente. Almost everyone is selling the ahima. Almost everyone is selling this. And then you check certain countries that really want the kente business, and then you make that country your niche and start creating your platform where you can do online businesses and export kente. And these are technologies, okay? The markets, you use digital platforms, you've gotten the market niche. So these are some of the reasons why people are motivated to go international. And then we have cost. Firms spread fixed cost over larger outputs and locate activities where input, skills, finance, or logistics offer an advantage. When you set up a business like Asapeko, they've already set up the plans. The cost has been incurred already. They are not coming to incur additional cost with their setup. All they need to do is to get their products outside Ghana and probably through exports. And they are not going to have any other fixed cost again. The cost they will be incurring will be current costs. Okay. And so with that one, if the cost involved is not that huge, it will be a motivation for them to have their product exported outside the country. And then we have competition. Rivals foreign expansion forces firms to defend markets, follow customers, or build comparable international position. If you're competing with someone with international customers, you will also be motivated to go that tangent. Okay. So these are the drivers of international business. These are the drivers of international business. And then we have the hurdles. of international business or problems that are facing international business. We have the economic variables. Okay, weak growth, high inflation, interest rate, unemployment, or poor infrastructure can reduce demand and raise cost. So, how you can respond to this as a manager is that you use your country analysis, your flexible budget, staged investment, and contingency planning in managing these economic variables. And then we also have the political variable, that's the instability, policy reversal, bureaucracy or bureaucratic practices, the tariffs, the quotas, weak institutions, all these ones disrupt operations. So you need to monitor the risk. You need to diversify when necessary. You need to use local partners, okay, to ensure where appropriate and also build shareholder legitimacy. These are some of the things you need to do as a business to manage your political issues. And then we have the technological variables, including infrastructure, skills. All these ones may be insufficient. Your employees or your operations may be using an archaic um, technology. Okay, so you as a firm, you may have to adapt. You may have to train your employees. You have to design actual operating environment and provide support for your operations. You should quickly know that in the next 5 years, the things I'm using may be archaic. So when you are buying something, you buy something that can last you for 5, 6 years, so that in the next 6 years, when you may want to change, you have at least achieved a lot with what you bought before you switch and all that. And then we have the currency shifts. Okay, exchange rates, they all influence importation cost. Okay, so you must have to price carefully and use financial hedging when you are doing international businesses, so that you don't really enter into a loss. So that you don't enter into a loss. I'll touch on the last thing and then we break for some time before we move to unit 2. And the last thing is the advantages and disadvantages of international business. This one we will do a discussion. So Asante Kofi Joseph, give us 5 advantages of international business. Please, is he here? Asante Kofi Joseph.
Madam, please, I'm here.
Yeah, I asked that you explain 5 advantages of international business. You can give us 3.
Okay. Switching of jobs. Job. International business also creates revenue and growth. And also, international helps in innovation. Is it network or what? Hello, please, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, okay, no. I said that international business creates job. Also, it also helps increase revenue.
It's also what?
It also increases revenue. Increases revenue, and also it brings innovation. It brings innovation. National
Sorry. Kobna Enchibu Esiako. Can we hear from you?
Okay, Doc. Uh, uh, Doc, I would say international business give access to larger market because businesses can sell their products and service to customers in different countries. And at the end of the day, it also increase sales and profits. They also have access to resources where firms can or businesses can obtain raw materials, uh, and they can also get capital from countries where they are more available or less expensive. And it also increases innovation and also competition because it encourages firms to improve their products when it comes to its quality and to meet international standards. Doc, please, this is what I have.
That's good. Now, let's take 5 disadvantages of international business. Anybody to start? Anybody? 5 disadvantages. Augustina.
Yes, Adam. Madam, please, I would say it brings about high competition because the local companies have to compete with the big foreign brands that may have better technology, money, and marketing.
Mhm. That's good.
Please,
Any
you
other?
made example earlier about the Egypt coach, so I can see that it's also a culture and language barrier.
Mm, the disadvantage.
Yes, please.
Okay. Yes. And then another one. We have two now. Any other?
So I will come from the perspective of policy regulations and laws.
Mhm.
Sometimes when there are changes or modifications in international trade agreements and others, they are likely to affect the operations of international businesses. For instance, when there are increments in taxes, in a way, it's going to affect them negatively because their cost of production or procurement may be higher.
That's
On the
great.
other hand, should there be subsidies and others, they are going to benefit from them. For instance, with the trade policies and regulations, if you want to look at Burkina Faso, which is a landlocked country,
Mhm.
where they normally use Ghana as their trade transit points, among others, should we tighten our policies, then they may not be able, they may uh, be compelled to use other border routes for their transportation, among others. So these are some of the policies that may impede or affect international businesses or trade.
That's great.
Yeah,
And Doc,
also
please.
come from the political stability. When there is
Mhm.
political unrest in a particular country, businesses suffer in the sense that even if they have the readily available raw materials, once there's, let's take the case of between Russia and Ukraine now. I don't
Mhm.
think businesses are surviving in those particular areas, looking at the flying of
Yeah.
bombs and all those kinds of missiles. And so they have to fold up. And at the end of the day, businesses are going to lose because whatever capital that they use for investing in their factory by now have been bombed and destroyed. And so they
Yes.
have to start all over again. So
Exactly.
that is that.
Exactly. Exactly. We've all had a very, very, very good contribution. So we will break for, let me check the time. Okay. We will come back at 11:40. You all woke up very early in the morning. So by now, some of you are hungry. And some of you, your children really needs you. So I'll break. We'll come back at
Hello, Doc.
hello. Hello.
We have
Please, with
another
the
lecture.
At what time?
with the
At 11.
But I'm told I was supposed to teach from check your timetable.
I think you are using your time.
We
Oh.
are
It's
using
nine.
our time.
It's
So give
now
us the time of
9:15 in
minutes.
Ghana.
Give us the minutes so that we can calculate.
Yeah, it's 9:15 in
Oh,
Ghana.
oh, oh.
Because I'm supposed to end at 11.
It's
Yeah, 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 yeah. I get you. Please, I'm sorry. Okay, 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 okay. Okay, so 9:15, we will come back at 9:40. Am I
All
right?
right. That's it.
Yes. We come back at 9:40. Oh, I'm sorry. But I have sent something to the chat box that I want you to, though you go on break, you will still learn. So we will discuss that after the break before we continue. Please, have you seen the chat? And the message I have sent to the chat. Yes, Akwete said yes, please. I've sent a message to the chat. So let's all read. I think it's a case study. It's a case study I created myself. We will read it when we resume at 9:40. That'll be 11. 9:40 we will discuss. So please, you can copy the message. If you want to conserve your internet, you can log out and come back later. That's fine. But when it is 9:40, we would resume, okay? All right.
Okay.
Enjoy your break. Hello. Please let's encourage our friends to join. We are far behind time. I want us to finish very quick. So please contact them so we can start quickly, okay?
This is the lecture ongoing. I can't hear anything. Anna. Oh, okay.
I'm here, but no one is here. Only 3 of you have come. Your class, you are 12. So if you can tell them, because that's delaying us.
It's done. I'm sure they will get back.
Okay, I'll continue. So we are doing the last unit for today. That is environmental factors. So with this section, we look at environmental and international business, the cultural environment, economic environment, political, legal environment, the competitive environment, and environmental analysis. So here we say the international business environment is the total set of external factors that influence a firm as it conducts its business across borders. Okay, these factors affect demand, cost, risk, legitimacy, access to resources, and the firm's freedom to act. Okay, so the environment may be classified in two useful ways. First, by proximity. That's the operating environment is close to the firm's industry, and then the transactions, whilst the remote environment consists of broad societal forces. Okay, and then the second by geographical sphere, that is the domestic, foreign, and then international. So the operating environment is the group of actors that the firm deals with regularly. And then the remote environment is the wider climate in which all those actors operate. Now let's look at the operating environment. So this environment deals with industry within which the firm operates. Okay, industry within which the firm operates. We have the labor market. So the availability, the quality, the skills, the productivity, attitude, and then the cost of employees. That's the labor market. So a large workforce is not enough if the required technical or language skills are absent. That is the labor market, and these are some of the operating environment and international business deals with. Then we have the creditors and banks. So providers of loans, payment facilities, foreign exchange, and working capital. Their interest rates, collateral requirements, and risk appetite affect business expansion. What they want, if it is something that the business cannot afford, you will not have the credit or you will not have the loan and all that. This is an operating environment. Then we have the suppliers. So for suppliers, they are providers of raw materials, components, technology, we have services. Okay, reliability and quality, price, and then bargaining power. These are the things that matters for a firm with its suppliers. Then we have the market, consumer market. So for the consumer market, is the individual and households that buy your product for personal use. These are people that affect your business in an operative way. We have the industrial market. That is the organizations buying inputs for production or internal use. They can buy from you, you buy from them within the industry. Exactly. And then we have the resell or reseller markets. That is wholesalers and retailers buying products to resell for profit. And then we have the government market. The government market, that's the public institutions procuring goods and services or distributing them to citizens. And then the international market, that's the foreign consumers, the producers, the resellers, and the government. These are the operating environment a firm is actually or is likely to face, okay? And they are also affected by the strategic decisions of the individual firms. Your management, your strategic board or whatever, they could also take certain decisions that can equally also affect your operations. And these are the environments around a business that you need to deal with. And then we move to the remote environment. So the remote environment consists of broad forces that influence the firm, but are normally beyond the direct control of an individual organization. These are often organized through the PESTEL, that is the political, environmental, social, technological, economical, and the legal one. That's the PESTEL analysis. So a firm negotiates, example, a firm negotiates with a supplier in an operating environment, but it cannot negotiate inflation, okay? That's the remote environment. And it must respond strategically to the broader economic environment. So let's look at these environment, the PESTEL. We have the political or legal environment, the economic environment, technological environment. We take them one by one. So when we pick a business, okay, let me explain this political environment first. So the political and the legal environment, this includes government stability, public policy, trade, rules, tax, labor law, we have consumer protection, competition law, product standards, and contract enforcement. These falls under the political and legal environment. Okay, these factors determine what the firm may do and the cost of compliance. And then we have the economic environment. We have the income affecting purchasing power, inflation affecting prices and costs, unemployment affecting both customer demand and labor availability, interest rates, growth, exchange rates, infrastructure and access to finance. And all of these shape business viability. And then we have the technological environment. This one, it covers infrastructure, scientific knowledge, digital connectivity, innovation, production methods, and technical capabilities. So technology can create new products and channels, okay, and improve efficiency and make existing business models very obsolete, or let's say old fashioned. Okay, so these are some of the environments. Now, when we pick a domestic environment, that is the environment which the firm lives in, the local or the home country. Okay, the domestic environment also contains uncontrollable forces originating in the firm's home country. Okay, so you can be in the domestic environment and still have both the operating environment and the remote environment. You will be in the domestic, that is, Kasapreko will be in Ghana, and Kasapreko will face both the environment that it can control and the environment that it cannot control. So the domestic environment contains uncontrollable forces originating in firms' home country. Managers normally understand these forces better because they are familiar here. And nevertheless, there is familiarity, or these familiarities may produce complacency. Home country exchange controls, labor disputes, taxes, financing, condition or export rules can affect activities abroad. Okay, so we also have the foreign environment. And for the foreign environment, it contains the political, economic, the legal, the cultural, the technological, and the competitive forces in the host country. Okay, the categories may be similar to those at home, but their strength, the meaning, and the interactions may also differ substantially. Okay, so a promotion that is persuasive at home may be ineffective or offensive abroad. Okay, a contract clause that is routine at home may also be unenforceable under the host country or its legal system when you are a foreigner somewhere. So why foreign environments operate differently? We have the different force value. The same variable has a different level of meaning. So interest rates, consumer income, labor skills, attitude to hierarchy and regulatory enforcement vary across countries, and they will not be the same. And then we have changes that are difficult to assess. Managers have less information and less cultural or political familiarity when they become a foreign country, a foreign business in a different country. So formal government statements may differ from actual implementation. And then we have forces and forces that are interrelated. So political, cultural, economic, and technological conditions reinforce one another. So costly capital plus abundant low-skilled labor may encourage labor-intensive production. You may not be using more of advanced technology. And then the international interaction, that is home country and host country rules. Currencies and relationships operate at the same time, creating cross-border effects. So these are some of the reasons why foreign environments operate differently. And then we have, okay, so I've explained this side. And then we have the cultural environment. Okay, the cultural environment. Culture is a shared system of values, norms, beliefs, practices, and sometimes symbols that provide a design for living. So values are broad ideas about what is good, right, or desirable. And then norms are the social rules that indicate appropriate behavior in particular situations. So, what determines cultural environment? We have the political philosophy or system. So, businesses view about individual freedom, collective responsibility, authority, and participation shape institutions and workplace expectation. That's what happened. And then we have the economic or philosophical system. Economic or philosophical system. And then for this one, for businesses, beliefs about private ownerships, markets, and the role of the state affect business legitimacy and regulations. Okay, it depends on the culture of where you find yourself. And then we have the social structure. The social structure. The importance of the individual or group, social class, status, and mobility affect teamwork, leadership, network, as well as consumption. That's how it is. And then we have the religious and ethical system, or religious and ethics. Beliefs influence working time. Okay, like you are someone that prays 12 o'clock, every 12 o'clock. And probably your business break time is maybe 1 to 2. So does it mean that you pause your job at 12, go and pray for 1 hour, and then continue? So you are using 2 hours to break when the whole firm is supposed to break at 1. We also have the side where you would say, but why do you allow my Muslim colleagues to go and pray during their time of prayers, but when it's time for Christians to pray, that's when we draw the line. That is the religion and ethics part that affects the business. So beliefs influences working time. It also influences food, clothing, finance, holidays, gender roles, and what is considered morally acceptable. So sometimes with the dressing, for instance, you can have a firm that will say nobody should wear hijab or the hijab or hijab or those scarf that they wear. But your culture also says women should be wearing all those things, or your beliefs or your religion gives you the freedom to do that. When that happens, it affects working time or working experience. And then we have language. Spoken language affects meaning and translation. When you check languages like the Arabic, the Arab, I don't know if it is for all the Arabs, probably not typical Arab. I don't know. I have to get the language right. Some of them, like my pen is missing, or I misplaced my pen. I watched that video somewhere. I misplaced my pen, or I misplaced my phone. The language doesn't make them take, or it doesn't make them accountable of what they have done. So instead of you saying, I have misplaced my pen, it will rather be the pen is missing, or the 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 pen has been misplaced. The question is by who? Per what they say, they when they are talking, you would assume they are not accountable for their actions, but that's how the language is like. You don't say I did it, something did it. What did it? That's how they speak. And so if you find yourself in that particular space, when you are interpreting things, or you are in the market and you are explaining things to them, you may have to speak to them the way they speak, or the way they understand, the way they have to express themselves. Okay. So spoken language affects meaning and translation. And then unspoken language includes gesture, eye contact, time, space, tone, color, all these things. When we were young, our mothers used to speak to us or discipline us with their eyes. You can't do that now. You go and look at somebody and the person will start shouting, why are you looking at me this way? So things have changed, okay? And the kind of gestures our parents used to do when even visitors are around and you have to get up from the living room because there is a visitor, or somebody is eating, you don't have to look at the person. They give us some signs. Now, those signs doesn't communicate to the kind of people we are giving birth to. They also have their own signs. We need to learn to talk to them that way. That is how language, or how far language can go. And then we have education, the literacy, the technical training, and professional capability affect labor supply, product instructions, the choice of media, and the complexity of communication. So for culture, you need to avoid stereotyping, actually, because culture provides tendencies, not a complete description of every individual. So good international managers use cultural knowledge as a starting point, and then they verify it through observation, research, and respectful engagement. If you want to find yourself in a place that has a different culture, you really need to do proper research about the people, how they do a lot of things before you establish yourself among them. Okay, so we move to the economic environment. The economic environment, you have the national economies that are interconnected, okay, through trade, finance, investments, supply chains, and commodity markets. So economic conditions influence purchasing power, production costs, access to capital, labor supply, and as well as strategic choices. And we have indicators for the economic environment. First one is the income and income distribution. Income and income distribution. So how does this affect a business? It determines the market size. When people are rich, they buy things. When people are poor, they will not be able to afford things, and your market size will reduce. Okay. Affordability and suitable product positioning. When your products are much affordable, you will have a lot of classes, income classes purchasing it. There are products, it doesn't matter whether you are rich or you are poor. Everyone buys it because the prices are the same. And then there are products that is only for the rich, because when you check the price of the product, it's equivalent to someone's monthly salary. And that's not what the person is using the salary to buy. Okay. Average income alone can hide large inequalities. That is what the income and income distribution is. And then we have inflation, an indicator of economic environment. And how does it affect a business? It raises input and living cost. If there is inflation. When you are buying your raw materials, the prices are already high. Okay. Production cost, electricity, and all these things. If you are going to use water, to use electricity, you use other things, internet, all the prices for these things are high already. And it will eat into the prices of your product. That is how it happens. And it reduces real purchasing power, creating price uncertainty. So that is how inflation actually affects businesses. And then we have interest rates. Interest rates, it influences the cost of borrowing. When you go to any bank to buy any product, okay, that is any type of loan you want to purchase from the bank, what you see there is that we have the real rate on the loan plus interest, plus inflation. So if you go to any bank and they tell you that when you borrow 1,000 Ghana cedis, your interest is, let's say, 5% or 10%. You may have maybe 1 or 2 years to pay the 1,000 back. Ask yourself, what at all goes into the 15% they are talking about? If you study carefully, or if they should explain things to you carefully, that 15% is made up of the actual rates. That will be less than even 10%, sometimes 5% or 6%. That's the actual rate on the loan. And the rest is being used to cater for inflation, because they don't know, maybe the next 10 years, the next 2 years or the next year, you bring that money back. What 1,000 can buy as at the time you went for the loan, that 1,000 cannot buy exactly the same thing by the time you pay that. So they have calculated and added inflation cost to it. So interest rate in banks consist of two things. We have the real rates and inflation. So what influence does it have on a business? Influence the cost of borrowing. It increases the interest rate, because if the real rate is 5%, at the end of the day, when I'm going for 1,000 cedis loan, I should be able to pay 5%. But now it is 15% because of inflation. So the cost of borrowing has increased. And then it also affects investment decisions, consumer credits, and currency movements. That is how interest rates affect business. And then unemployment. Unemployment, it may increase labor availability, but will reduce household demand and contribute to social pressure. A lot of people are unemployed. Of course, you can get some to employ, but how many will you employ? And if majority are unemployed, who is going to buy your product for you? Who is going to buy your product for you? And these same unemployed people, some category could also be thieves that can enter your company and steal the things you have. Then we have exchange rates, change import prices, export competitiveness, and then the home currency value of foreign profit. When the dollar was up around 15 cedis, 16 cedis, I don't know whether it got to 16. Last 2 years, I think it was 14, 15. It ended around 14, 15 cedis or so. Exporters were happy, but importers were not happy, because when I'm exporting, I'll be getting dollars in return. And so that one was good for me. But some of us who were also importing were not happy because the price has also increased. And that is how exchange rates affect business. Clearing yourself from the port and all that becomes very, very difficult for you. Now that it is very down, exporters are crying because they are receiving little from the foreign exchange market. That is how it works. So as a country, you need to balance it in such a way that both the importer and exporter will benefit. And then we have the infrastructure side of the economic indicator. So transport, energy, technology, the schools and the health systems affect productivity. reliability, and as well as location decisions. If you are situating your business in a place where the transport system is bad, electricity is poor, internet connectivity is bad, you don't have any school or health system, and the supply chain or warehousing and all that, any big market, then what are you doing? Okay. So these determine, or these are the environments that affect a business. So for economic system, okay, for economic system, we have more like 4 systems that helps a business. We have the market economy. Okay, that is the private ownership and prices that's shaped largely by supply and demand. That is what we mostly do in Ghana. When the demand is high, obviously the prices will go up because suppliers will hoard and tell you we don't have more and all that. How does it affect a firm? A strong market incentive, competition, and consumer choices. Government still protects competition and then property rights here. And then we have the command economy where government plans production, quantities and prices, and owns major productive assets. These are some of the things that major developed countries take advantage of because the government owns majority of the supplies in the system. So it controls the market. So here, business freedom and private ownership are more restricted. You can't just price things anyhow you want. And the state properties guide resources allocation. So that's the sharp contrast. Ghana, we are the market economy. Most of the advanced countries, they are the command economy. Then we have the mixed one, where both the government and the private people control the market. So private markets coexist with the state ownership, regulations, and public provisions in selected sectors. So it's not all. There are some sectors that the private people are allowed to operate, and there are also sectors that the government consume. Okay. To some extent, you can see Ghana somehow practice the mixed, but most of them are the security section where it's solely the government that provides security. You don't have private security services. And I think the education, majority of the senior high schools, it is the government that controls that side. Then you have the state-directed economy. Private firms operate, but government guides investment towards national priorities through policy, credit, subsidies, or protection. So here, what it is that, yes, you are the private person, you own the market, but we tell you where to put your money in. So if you want to have a business in Ghana, you need to meet the government officials and say, okay, we have enough schools, so we don't need more schools. So if this Nkukwan Ketenkete and all those things, if they had really drafted their policies so well, the government can say it's those in the poultry businesses that will benefit. And so these are the people we will give the Nkukwan to. And then they will manage it too, because they have the facilities already. But what are we doing? We went to them to share the nkukwa. Now they are using it for jollof. This is how you manage a system. And then we move to the political and legal environment. Okay, the political and legal environment. So government policies create both constraints and opportunities. The government may impose taxes, product standards, and trade restrictions, while also offering infrastructure, investment incentives, export support, or market access through international agreements. So, for a host country perspective, the firm must comply with the laws and expectations of the country where it operates, including the labor, tax, safety, environmental, and then the product rules. Okay, if someone is hosting you, that's not where your business is from. You have built a new subsidiary or a branch in a different country, that country becomes a host to you and you must comply with their laws. Okay. And then we have the embargoes and sanctions under the host country perspective. So here, sanctions are targeted coercive restrictions. An embargo is usually broader and may prohibit most or all trade with country or category of goods. That is how it's like. And then the export controls, we have government restricting sensitive goods, technology, software, or knowledge for security. Okay, foreign policy or scarcity reasons, licensing may be required. You see, sometimes, or me, I heard that trophy is banned in Ghana. In our laws, we are not supposed to be chewing turkey, whatever, trophy and all, but we see it on the street where they have. I don't know who is regulating that, but it was for food policy. If you pick the laws governing Ghana, the regulations, the bylaws and things on paper, we are one solid country. But the problem is the implementation, because all our laws governing trade and everything is one of the perfect you can have in the world. But unfortunately, we don't implement them the way we want. If we were really implementing them, we will not be having kidney issues and some sickness that is not by hereditary, not by curse, not by any other thing, but out of poor eating habit or things that is in the market that we are just buying. Okay. And then we have also the regulating international business behavior. So home country laws may follow the firm abroad in areas such as bribery, competition, sanctions, reporting, and human rights. A business from Ghana who is used to corrupt activities, you go to any office, you put an envelope in someone's table and they do things for you. If you don't take care, you take that disease somewhere else and you will be arrested. Okay. And then we have the host country political and legal environment. Here we have the political actions and risk. So government instability or action can threaten ownership, disrupt operations, or prevent the transfer of funds. See now, because of us South African, they go back, this nonsense they were doing. There are firms here, we don't want to, we Ghanaians, we don't want them to continue. The mining company, and even MTN, we are shouting that MTN should go. We want all South African countries. They are host businesses, and they are foreign businesses here. We are hosting them. But because of the things that they did, we also want to impose our political wills on them. And this is what is coming from the citizens. So if not for diplomacy and how we do our things here, the government could be influenced by the people to say we don't want these companies here because of what their home country did to us, and so we should sack them. Then we have the economic risk, exchange controls, discriminatory taxes, price controls or restrictions on profits, repatriation can reduce return. Now, from what is happening, I don't know if they are renegotiating, but if they should renegotiate, we are at a higher advantage of imposing discriminatory taxes on them, just to make things difficult for them to stay here. That is how host countries' environments affect businesses. And then we have the managing risk or managing the risk. Screen countries, monitor development, stage investment, diversify, ensure, form suitability partnerships, and build local legitimacy through it. So all these things are a way of managing certain risk you may have in a country you are a foreigner to. Okay. And then the legal differences. Legal systems, the laws in South Africa, the laws in Congo, the laws in Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, Benin are different. Okay, they are different. Litigation, contract, intellectual property dispute, and all these things are different. And these are things that a business is supposed to deal with if you are a foreign business in a host country. So there are three types of political risk, actually. There are three types of political risk. We have the, okay, it's not here. We have the ownership risk. That is the danger to asset or ownership rights, including expropriation of or like confiscation. So with this ownership risk, if that's what gold fields are facing now, we may end up changing ownership. Just the government can say leave. We are giving the whole site to a Ghanaian to manage based on what you did. And then we have the operating risk. Government or political event interferes with daily operations, the staffing, the sourcing, the pricing, or production. You could also say from what you have done and all that, all your top level management to whatever, they are all supposed to be Ghanaian. If they are from South Africa, they should go back to their country, because that's what they were also doing to us. They go to firms and tell them that sack all the foreigners and employ all South Africans. And we can also decide to retaliate, and this will affect your operations. And then we have the transfer risk, where there is restrictions preventing the firm from moving money, profit or capital across board. When they mine, they send the gold back, they send their monies back, they just pay what they're supposed to pay with us. But we can also decide that it will not go anywhere. It should be here. And do the refinery and everything here. That's how politics can influence the business environment. Okay. So we move to what we call the competitive environment. Competitors are organizations that seek the same customers, resources, partners, or strategic positions. And managers should not look only at familiar direct rivals. Competition may come from several directions. So MTN, Momo, yes, you shouldn't think that Vodafone Cash or Telecel or Airtel to go Cash is the competition. We have also other different money transfer platforms that people use. So when you go to Nigeria, they don't really use Momo. They have their own way of dealing with digital transactions. Ghana, apart from Momo, I don't know, I think eSwitch, I don't know, banking apps are there. We have the tap send and other things. But if you think your competition is the telecommunications, then you fail, because we can have others that will enter into the market solely for that purpose, and they may defeat you. So if you are a business, you don't always look at the direct rivals. You have to look at unexpected competitions that can come. So we have types of competition. We have the small domestic firms. So they may know a narrow local niche exceptionally well and compete through relationships, flexibility, or sometimes specialized offerings. Then we have the overseas firms. So these are foreign firms that may enter with capital, technology, brand strength, or experience from other markets. Then we have the large new domestic firms. These people are established companies from another sector that may use resources and distribution capabilities to enter into the market. Okay. And then we have the strong regional competitors. That is firms from neighboring countries that may understand regional tastes, logistics, and institutions better than the distant multinationals. And then the unusual or digital entrants. So these people, they are online platforms and new business models that can compete without traditional stores or industry boundaries. So think Malcolm think they are here, Malcolm, ShopRite, but you don't know that Amazon and things are also there. What you are selling, they're also selling the same thing. the Juma and all those ones. They are practically selling the things you're also selling, so they can compete with you. You might think you are here with your physical structure, but they are also there with the online thing. And if delivery and things are meeting standard timelines, they will not worry themselves to go there, because after all, they will deliver it at their doorsteps. Okay. So for competition, we have types. We have the following competitor. So the following competitors, they follow the leader. Okay. So reasoning suggests that firms in oligopolistic industries often follow the domestic rivals into foreign markets. When we say a firm is an oligopoly, we are saying that it's an industry dominated by a smaller number of large firms whose decisions are interdependent. Okay, whose decisions are interdependent. An industry in which 4 firms control like 80% of the domestic market is considered an oligopoly. And an example is the Ghana telecommunication industry, where MTN, Vodafone, and Airtel Tigo are the ones controlling the telecommunication networks in Ghana. Okay. So these are oligopoly firms. If one major competitor enters an attractive foreign market, others may fear that it will gain scale. That is what Glow tried to do, and they lost the market. Okay, so they respond with their own foreign investments, even when the market was not originally central to their plan. I heard that the MTN people decided to buy all I don't know whether it's true. They bought all the SIM cards from Glow people and then they threw it away. So Glow thought they were selling SIM cards, not knowing it was MTN that was buying them. At the end of the day, they didn't get customers and they left. So the telecommunication that I mentioned is one of the, what do you call it? The oligopoly market. And then we have threats of new entrants. Okay, so the new entrants add capacity, seek customers, and may introduce lower prices or new business models. Entry barriers reduce these threats by making entry difficult, costly, or slow. So one of the major barriers is the government policy. You may need license, you may need foreign ownership rules, you may need quotas, you may need standards or regulations, which may be restricted when you are a new entrant. Then you have the capital requirements. Okay, industries such as telecommunications, aviation, mining, or banking requires substantial investment. So if some of us remember, I don't know if some of us are working in the banks. 2017, 2018, there was bank recapitalization in Ghana. And I don't know whether the media had the opportunity to teach Ghanaians the meaning of bank recapitalization. Because from 19 something, there was a minimum capital required to operate as a bank. And then in 2008 or so, they increased the minimum capital requirement. I can't mention the figure. So if you don't have that particular amount as a capital for you as a bank, you can't operate as a bank. And so they revoke your license, or they merge you, or they let a bigger bank take over your operations. Okay, this was a way of curbing. So in case you run into a loss, at least you have some amount deposited with Bank of Ghana that can be used to pay some of your debts. And then in 2017, they had to recapitalize it because there were a lot of bank influx in the system. Almost everyone was opening bank, microfinance, and commercial banks almost everywhere. wherever you find yourself, at the Shemine days, one bank, it was a lot. So they had to recapitalize. But what did we see? Most of the lay people in Ghana didn't get opportunity to understand what was going on. And that is the country we find ourselves. We don't really explain our policies so well to citizens, and so we just start crying when things happen. It was a good move that the BOG did as at that time to make sure that if you want to become a bank in this country, you have to have this particular amount. When they checked even the minimum capital requirement as at the time they were supposed to operate, majority of them were not having that amount. Majority, they were not having that amount. So you ask yourself, how did they even get accreditation to become banks in the first place? Majority were not having. And so they had to merge some, let GCB overtake some. They had to revoke some people their license. And there was a lot of chaos. I was expecting the media to be doing public education. Sometimes, so me, if I want to operate in any bank, I don't want any situation. GCB is what I want, because for them, no matter what, they are always meeting the requirement, because they are an example to other commercial banks. So how come GCB will not meet the capital requirement? And in Ghana too, if you want to mine, you also have a minimum capital required to mine. So that is why we don't have a lot of Ghanaians into the mining industry, because the capital required, the machines required, if you don't meet it, you can't have the license to mine. That is why we have the small scale miners. They have the license because they are supposed to, the capital and the equipment they have, they will mine in a smaller scale. So somebody like Ibrahim Mahama has gotten that capital enough to own a whole mining concession at a larger scale. And that is what we entreat most of the engineers in Ghana, if they can form partnership or even company to pool resources so that they can be owning some of these things, and then the foreigners will leave. So capital requirement is one of the threats to new entrants. If you are a bank, if you are a mining company, aviation company, what do you call it? Telecommunication. We have the laws. The laws give you some capital requirements you need to have before you mine, before you bank, before you open your what do you call it? So Ghana Airways like this, they couldn't meet their capital requirements. Almost everything was down. That's how come they collapsed. This is how it works. And then we have the brand identification. Identification. Customers may trust established brands, forcing a newcomer to spend heavily on awareness and credibility. We have MTN, we have Vodafone, we have MTN, we have Telecel, we have Airtel to go. Glow is out of the system though. So imagine a new telecommunication network wants to compete with these people. First of all, the issue people will raise is security threats, cyber security and all that. If I give you access to my information, how sure am I that this information I have given you will be kept so well? Because even the people we trust, MTN, you'll be there and you don't know how a fraudster will get to know your contacts and they will call you. Okay. These are some of the things. And then we have the cost disadvantage. Cost disadvantage. Existing firms may have economies of scale. They've already established the fixed costs have been incurred already. No more additional cost unless they want to really expand. And so with what they have, they produce in larger quantities. Or what they have, they produce quantities at different, or there are variations with their production. But for you as a new entrant, okay, where existing firms may have economies of scale, experience, patent, good location or preference access to input. You will not have, because you may have to start everything right from the scratch. And then we have the distribution channels, retail space, agents, platforms, or logistics network may already be tied to established competitors. So if you are coming in new, you may have to have your own, or you may have to have a contract that is higher than what they have already before they can consider you. Okay. Then we have threat of substitution or substitute. So a substitute performs the same customer function through different products, services, or technology, and it does not need to look similar to the existing product. Okay, so for example, video conferencing can substitute for some business travels, mobile payments can substitute for some cash transactions, and then streaming can substitute for physical media. Okay, so substitutes place a ceiling on prices and profits because customers can switch when the substitute offers better value, convenience, or performance. So managers must monitor, you should be able to monitor emerging technologies and changing customer behaviors, not only current direct competitors. So for mobile phones like this, Nokia, I don't know whether they decided or they were not smart enough, because when smartphones were entering into the system, substituting for photo shoot and things, because my phone can take pictures and all that, my phone can record, my phone can do this at the same time, you were still having your phones that could do none of the things we have mentioned. And they were not smart enough to bring in phones that could meet the demands, and they collapsed. By the time they realized somebody has captured the whole of Africa, they brought in new phones. I think they merged with Microsoft to come up with new phones, but they still couldn't survive. I don't know if they are still producing those ones, but that is the point. So if a product is cotton, the substitute might be what? Polyester. Coffee, it could be chocolate drink. Fossil fuel, it could be solar fusion. These are some of the substitutes for goods you produce. So you need to be aware of your environment. These competitions, you need to be aware of your environment. And then we have suppliers. So suppliers provide the resources that the organization transform into products or services. Suppliers power rises when there are few alternative sources. The inputs is unique, switching is costly, or the supplier has many other customers. So this is where you have issues. So for suppliers, we have 4 categories. We have the people, we have raw materials and components, we have the financial capital, we have the technology and services. So for people, universities, technical institutes, labor markets, the professional network, they supply knowledge and skills. Okay, and then we have the raw materials and components. That is producers, wholesalers, and distributors supply. They supply you with the physical inputs, the quality, the lead time, and the continuity of these things matters. Okay, matters a lot. When they get an option that is offering them something better for what they supply, they'll leave you. And that becomes a competition that you need to look at. And then we have the financial capital. Banks, investors, and other finance people, they supply working capital and investment fund. So if you are able to explain yourself so well, if you are able to give them value for their money, you will get more of these kinds of people into your business. And then we have the technology and services, like the software providers, the logistic firms, the utilities and professional advisors. They may supply critical capabilities. So these are some kinds of suppliers. So for example, a firm becomes vulnerable when changing a critical software system. Okay, the machine component or the certified input would be costly and disruptive, sometimes to You are changing the software. It's some way, because you have to give in all your company data into the software. It's not easy. Okay, so this is called high switching cost as a supplier. Now, I think we move to practically almost the last thing. That is the environmental analysis. So for this one, we have the environmental scanning. So if you want to scan the environment, the question is, who are your current competitors? Are there few or many entry barriers to your industry? What substitute exists for your product or your services? Is the company too dependent on powerful customers? These are some of the questions you need to ask yourself. So scanning is a systematic way of search for the interpretation of information about relevant changes, opportunities, and threats. So as I said, you may have to know who your competitors are, if you have barriers, and then what are the substitutes for your products or your services. Then we have the scenario development. So for the scenario development, scenarios are more of a coherent alternative picture of the future, like what you think would happen. So you may construct a favorable case, a difficult case, or somehow a case that is not difficult and that is not too favorable. So scenarios do not come certainties, though. They help managers or they help firms test strategies and prepare contingency plans. So you may want to think, okay, so if I want to, just as someone said, the fight in Israel, Ukraine, all these places, these areas are war-prone places. They can start fighting at any point in time. And have you thought of Africa? Would there ever be a time that we will also fight? So you may have to consider some of these things when you are putting up a business. And if we would fight, where will these fights come from? Will it be from west, north, east, central? Okay, you have to consider some of these things. These are the scenarios that you think of. And then we have the forecasting. Forecasting, you estimate how variables such as demand, such as inflation, exchange rates, your labor supply, or interest rate may change. So you forecast to support planning, but not fact. So if I want to start production, how much or how many would be sold in a month? And then you try and forecast. You can use a day or two sales and then forecast. So if I feel like my sobolo, I will get 20 people to buy in a day, then in a month, I would be able to produce this number of sobolo bottles and all that. That's how you forecast. And you end up forecasting for the year, and then you look at the estimated profit, estimated cost for the production, and how much tax, if I declare this profit, how much tax I'm supposed to pay and all that. That's what, if you are scanning your environment. We have places where you can enjoy tax holidays, or you will not be able to pay tax because you are offering such this, and that. Okay, you scan your environment and then you make decisions. And then we have the benchmarking. Okay, the benchmarking, you compare your firm's performance and processes with the best in class organizations to identify gaps, and then you learn better practices. So let's say University of Cape Coast, they said we are the best university in West Africa, best university in Ghana in terms of research and blah, blah, blah. So if you want to set up a university like University of Cape Coast, okay, or if you already have a university and you want to be like University of Cape Coast, you may have to benchmark your performance as against University of Cape Coast. How do they do their things? So how can I also achieve and even achieve better? You compare yourself to the best in class organizations, okay? And the goal is not to blind copy or do exactly what they are doing. It is to understand why another organizations perform better, and then you adapt to what they do appropriately. That's what you do. And then the last one, responding to the environment. So if you want to respond to the environment, first of all, you need to adapt. That is, you change internal structure or processes to fit the environment. So for example, you decentralize your decisions. You may localize your products. You train staff or do some workshops and things to create flexible supply chain arrangements also. All these things is part of the adaptation. And then we have the influence, okay? You act lawfully to shape the current environment independently or cooperatively. So you have public relations, voluntary actions, lobbying, contracts. So Casapreco and things, they are corporate social responsibilities, the things they do, finding themselves with government PRs and things. It helps them. It helps them. And then we have the selecting a new environment. So sometimes you can change the competitive domain through strategic words maneuvering. So you enter a new segment or a country, you can diversify, you can acquire, you can merge, or you can have an like you change unsuitable operations just so you can survive in the what do you call it, in where you find yourself. So the lecture ends here, but I think I sent a case study for us to discuss. Are we all back? We have 15 minutes, we have 10 minutes. We can use that for the discussion. Aquaba Naturals. Who can read the case study for us? Hello? Okay. Looks as if most of you are not in class, so
We
Yeah.
but we couldn't, some of us couldn't get it.
No, yeah.
But if you could put it back again, because it was my went off
when
and I
is
can't
your
access
next
it again.
class? At what time is your next class?
For today.
Yes.
I think we start at 12 or 11:50.
11:50. You start at 11:50.
Yes.
And now it is 10:51 here, right?
Yes,
Yes.
please.
Okay, then I think I have to break you for you people to go and prepare. But what?
No, but I can see it here.
Please, you said?
I can see it here. The case study.
Yeah. But if you guys are to prepare for another class, I think I have to leave you. When we meet next week, God willing, we will discuss that before. I'll send another case study to Auntie Beta so that she shares that with you. Okay. So maybe we may
Okay.
have to close here so you prepare.
But please, some of us we couldn't get it.
I'll send both.
Okay.
I'll send both. So thank you all for coming. If there are no questions, we will end here for today. God willing, next week. And before we meet next week, I will send you I'm told you are 13 in class. So we will have 4 groups, three in a group. One group will only be 4. And I'll share the topics for presentation, so you take note of that. Have a wonderful weekend or a wonderful week. Bye-bye.